Good afternoon and welcome to View from Military Mind for Memorial Day weekend, May 29th, 2020. Views and opinions about world and national events from the mind of a military veteran that has served and defended this country since 1978. Insight that has been molded by the commitment and sacrifices of the Americans that are defending and have defended our freedoms for the past 247 years. Unfiltered, unedited, and certainly not PC. We are those people. Let's stand up and stand firm. I want to welcome everybody to the show today. It's a very special weekend for me and for a lot of my brothers and sisters that are out there in the military. This is the weekend that we honor those that we have lost while defending our country and standing up for the rights and the freedoms that we have and that we've enjoyed for well over 300 years. Today, I'm going to look at a few of those that some friends have asked me to talk about and to view, and talk about the missing man table and what it means. So many people have asked us, what does a missing man table mean? We're also going to look at a little vignette of those that are coming up. So kind of stand with me, listen for a little while, and enjoy the show. Abraham Lincoln, in his Gettysburg Address, had talked about several things from the Battle of Gettysburg and about the hallowed grounds and those that we have lost. And one quote specifically to him that means a lot this weekend said, "We here highly resolved that these dead shall not have died in vain." And Memorial Day weekend, we consecrate and enforce that statement from Abraham Lincoln from the Gettysburg Address. And George Washington had made the comment, "When we take up the soldier, we do not lay aside the citizen." Every one of these troops, every one of these service members, brothers, comrades, sisters, are all citizens of this great country. And they have laid down their lives in order to defend those freedoms and to keep us going from day to day. All right, the next thing we're going to get into, a little description. A lot of people have asked about it. In fact, on the Moving It Right show, where I'm co-host with Rich Askin on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they'd asked me. And I couldn't exactly quote everything that goes on that table. So today, and as I promised, today, I'm going to tell you about that table. So the missing man table, also known as the fallen comrade table, is steeped in symbolism and is featured in solemn ceremonies that fallen, missing, or imprisoned U.S. military service members are honored at across the nation, from your various veterans organizations, civilian organizations, and even individuals. At a quiet moment, a solemn moment, they use this. Each item on the missing man table represents the emotions and feelings reserved for those who did not come home. The ceremony symbolizes that they are with us, At times, this table can be very, very strong and emotional for many people, your host included. It means a lot to us and symbolizes a lot to us. And as we move along, I'll start getting into some of the stories here. And as you can tell today, we're not going to have ads. We're not going to have any promotions or anything like that. So just bear with me. We'll make the show as long and as short as we can. I will mention those who pop up on our feeds here. Willie Ross, welcome aboard, my friend, another brother from Mississippi National Guard, retired. I hope you're enjoying retirement there, Willie, and enjoying the show. The first group of soldiers that I'm going to get into were submitted to me by CW5 Greg Matthews. He's a Black Hawk pilot out of the National Guard. And he had posted this actually on Facebook. And I reached out to Greg and asked him, can I put this on my show? And I, with him, agree this is a heck of a way to honor those that we had lost. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read that post that Greg had on Facebook. So bear with me. He says, I sit here reflecting on life in general, all the ups and downs. I think of those that have gone before us, and I think they would probably love to be here still, even on a bad day. Each Memorial Day, I think of several soldiers I have known that made the ultimate sacrifice. CW5 John Pratt and Captain John Brainerd were shot down in their AH-64 Apache attack helicopter while flying from Fob Sharana to Kabul on Memorial Day in 2012. Greg says he had spoke with John the night before and the morning of his death. He was 51 and he left a wife and a 4-year-old daughter. He says he also remembers Sergeant Eric Williams that was serving with the 82nd Airborne when they had arrived in Afghanistan. He was a medic with the medevac unit that they were replacing. Greg says he'd flown in his aircraft a few times while they were doing their train up and getting ready for their assumption of the role. Sergeant Williams was killed while traveling home from Afghanistan in 2012. He'd made a stop at Fob Shank on the way to Bagram and was killed by a rocket attack while waiting on his flight to go home. He says, I remember thinking how horrible it was to be killed during the last phase of your deployment, traveling home after telling your family you're on your way. He said, I remember Sergeant First Class Chris Robinson, who was a Green Beret in the Mississippi Army National Guard in the 20th Special Forces Group. I, Greg, was part of the helicopter crew that did some of the units train up prior to their deployment. We had 2 aircraft supporting these guys, and we were flying at night and practicing fast ropes insertions. And for those who don't know what that is, think of Black Hawk Down as the men went into Mogadishu. These guys would slide down a rope to the ground after the helicopter stopped at a hover. Between flights, we were sitting at Hagler Army Airfield on Camp Shelby. And he says, I can remember talking to Chris and asking him about his upcoming deployment. He said, we'll probably only pass out teddy bears to kids. I was shocked when I heard of his death a few months later. Chris was killed in Afghanistan in 2006, manning a machine gun in the back of a truck while conducting ground assault operations. Greg goes on to say that on his deployment into Iraq in 2004, one of his jobs was briefing all the incoming air crews assigned to the 185th on the aviation threat and our tactics, techniques, and procedures. One of the Apache crews that I briefed was later shot down in Baghdad while trying to help a ground convoy that was under attack. He didn't know them. He just briefed them. But he thinks of them each Memorial Day. There have been several others that have been killed in aviation accidents, either training up or while deployed in support of combat operations. He remembers one, a Major Brad Green, who was killed in OH-58D conducting night vision goggle training at Camp Shelby in 1997. Brad was a warrant officer at the time of his death, but he previously held the rank of captain, so he was posthumously promoted to major. He was a Vietnam veteran and well liked and respected by everyone that knew him. Greg goes on to say that he was able to visit Arlington a few years ago, and he found John Pratt's grave. Arlington is beautiful and definitely should be on your list of places to see. Enjoy family time and barbecue this weekend. But remember, this is a time to honor our fallen. Freedom isn't free. Greg, that's awesome. And we did a little research. We pulled up a few things on the men that you mentioned. And the first one was CW5, John C. Pratt. As you had stated, CW5 Pratt was shot down in his A-64 Apache on Memorial Day in 2012 on his way to Kabul in Afghanistan. One of the things that they did do for Chief Pratt was in Mazar Sharif, Afghanistan, one of our forward operating bases over there. They named a camp after him, as he was the brigade's senior warrant officer and the H-64 Delta Longbow Apache pilot. Pratt had a long and distinguished career as one of the Army's senior Apache pilots. He was well known and respected throughout the Army aviation community. A native of Washington, D.C., he joined the Army in 1982 and served initially as an OH-58 Kiowa scout pilot in Korea and at Fort Campbell. After a break in service, he returned to fly the Apache, becoming qualified on each variant. And for more than 20 years, Pratt served in the Army as an instructor pilot, flight examiner, master gunner, and standardization pilot. He had deployed to multiple combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. The other individuals you had mentioned through your article, through your writing, was Captain John R. Brainerd. And Captain Brainerd was from Portland, Maine. And they go on to talk about him dying in a helicopter in Afghanistan, being shot down. He was actually a citizen originally from Newport. Excuse me, I'm sorry. You have to bear with me. And it just basically goes into what had happened in Afghanistan. But again, CW5 Pratt and Captain John R. Brainerd lost in Afghanistan when their Apache was shot down. The next one that you talk about is Sergeant Eric Williams, a medic that was working with you from the 82nd Airborne. And Sergeant Eric Williams, 27, he was from Heredia, California. It goes on to say that he was in transit from his duty station in Ghazni province in Afghanistan, the United States, after serving a full year deployment, and was killed by enemy fire on July 23rd, 2012. Sergeant Williams was a flight medic with the All-American Dust-Off Team assigned to Company C, 3rd of the 82nd General Support Aviation Battalion, 82nd Combat Aviation Brigade, 82nd Airborne Division out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. They say that Sergeant Williams was a local hero who grew up in Heredia, California, where he was a pure California boy. Loved to bike, skateboard, boogie board, snowboard, and surf. He loved his music, fun, and really good discussion. And he lived his life to the fullest. He had become president of the Fire Explorers with the local fire department and earned his EMT certification at San Jacinto College in the fall of 2002. And immediately began working with American Medical Response as an EMT. He completed his fire service classes at San Jacinto College and graduated the Fire Academy. And then Sergeant Williams entered the U.S. Army in 2007. He earned his military occupational specialty, 68 Whiskey, healthcare specialist later in the year. He was stationed in Germany in 2008 and later deployed for a year to Iraq as a combat medic. Returning to the States after his deployment, he worked as an emergency room medic at Fort Sill. He was promoted to sergeant, earned his flight medic certification in 2011, and was subsequently deployed to Afghanistan later that year. He served with the 82nd Airborne in Afghanistan honorably and helped stand up the incoming National Guard unit that was replacing All-American Dustoff, and Greg had the honor of knowing him. He goes on to mention Sergeant Christopher L. Robinson, a native of Brandon, Mississippi. Sergeant First Class Christopher L. Robinson passed away on 25 March 2006 in combat patrol in Helmand Province in Afghanistan. Robinson enlisted in the Mississippi Army National Guard as a radio operator in 1987 and volunteered for Special Forces training. He graduated from the Special Forces Qualification Course at Fort Bragg, North Carolina in 1988 and joined the 20th Special Forces Group out of Birmingham, Alabama. Sergeant First Class Robinson was assigned as a communications sergeant to 2nd Battalion, 20th Special Forces Group, Jackson, Mississippi, where he served until his death in Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. These people hold a very dear place in Greg's heart, as he knew them, he served with them, he worked with them, lived with them, cried with them, and in a lot of ways, part of him died with them. My salutes to you, Greg, as you remember daily these men that you served with. We go on from a very close friend of mine, Command Sergeant Major Archie Deese, the 1st Armored Division, 1st the 501st Attack Helicopter Battalion in Fort Bliss, Texas. Sent me 2 of the people that he remembers at every Memorial Day. A CW4 James Carter and Specialist Andre Devon McCain. They were lost on a test flight in an OH-58 in 2008. Sergeant Major writes that C.W. Carter was the platoon leader for his 58 section. He'd been approved for retirement and would have missed the deployment in 2007, 2008, but he chose to pull his retirement so he could deploy one more time with his platoon. Carter had met Specialist McNair only a few months before the deployment, but he seen that McNair had the same dreams as himself at a young age. So he took McNair under his wing and started teaching him about the aircraft and leadership. CW4 Carter would work with McNair every day in the deployment, answering questions and teaching how to troubleshoot the aircraft. McNair's desire was to become a pilot. So one day, CW4 Carter took him out for a test flight. Everything was going good until they were to return to CAF, or Kandahar Army Airfield. The aircraft lost electric power and was unable to recover and crashed about a mile outside of base. CW4 Carter had 2 sons in high school, and the oldest being selected for a football scholarship. Specialist McNair was an expecting father and was taking his mid-tour leave for the birth of his son shortly after the accident happened. McNair and Carter were a unique pairing that you see in the military a lot. The elder man or the older soldier, the older officer, the older NCO, take a young man under their wing. They see potential in, they see great things to come about in them. And this is what was going on with Chief Carter and Specialist McNair. Chief Carter was raising a fellow soldier up to take his place one day as a mechanic and at the helm of one of those aircraft. He knew that McNair one day would do something great. Unfortunately, the woes of combat and the woes of torn out, tired aircraft, sometime we pay the price. Both men were honored with awards and memorials. But every day we remember those men and women that we've lost. Now, through the show, I was going to show the pictures of each man. Unfortunately, that didn't come up. But we're going to do that now. And as I go along, I'll give you those names and tell you who they are. So you have in your mind a picture of those individuals. These men have all paid the price for what we have today. Let's honor them, remember all those that we have lost, and all those that mean so much to me, to all of us, to their families, their friends, and their neighbors. So as we go along, like I said, this is a very special day. That means a lot to me. And I remember an inscription I saw when I went to Arlington. It says, each of these heroes stands in the unbroken line of patriots who have dared to die that freedom might live and grow and increase its blessings. I don't know who made the quote, don't remember, but I think it's a pretty damn good one. I just pray that each day we remember our men and women still deployed. Wear your red on Friday. Remember those folks that are deployed. Bear with us. Remember, we have our demons, but we'll always defend our nation. So the show's a little short. It's a little rough on me, but I made it through. So until the next time, I ask that you support those that are defending us, support those that protect us, support those who help us. And God bless America. This is your host, Terry Mills, from View from the Military Mind. You can get a hold of us on Facebook, YouTube, or write us at vfamm2020@gmail.com. Until next week, God bless America.